Moscow, Beijing, and Delhi's opinions on the rematch between Biden and Trump. The race to become the next president of the United States is constantly keenly followed worldwide. There are numerous ways that US foreign policy, as well as White House actions, affect various regions of the world. There's no doubt that American influence overseas will be discussed at Thursday's first debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. But the significance of this election extends beyond Gaza, Israel, and the Ukraine. Russians will keep a watchful eye out for any unrest. Assume the role of Vladimir Putin. In the White House, who would you rather have? The man who vowed to support Ukraine and labelled you a killer. Joe Biden is that person. Or the candidate, a certain Donald Trump, who has criticised US military aid to Kyiv and declared that he would urge Russia to do whatever the hell they want to any NATO member nation that doesn't adhere to defence budget criteria. The leader of the Kremlin, who is always willing to surprise people, has stated publicly that he truly thinks Joe Biden should stay in his position due to his predictability. However, one should take this public endorsement with a very big grain of Russian salt. Moscow is probably going to see 3 lemons on the geopolitical fruit machine with the election of a US president who rejects both NATO and Ukraine. It's not like Moscow will get paid for sure. The first Trump administration disappointed the Kremlin. A Russian diplomat told me in 2016 that they had celebrated Mr. Trump's win with champagne and a cigar. However, the champagne lost its flavour. The improvement in Russia-US relations that the Russian authorities had anticipated never happened. Who's to say Moscow wouldn't be just as disappointed with a second Trump term? The Russian government will be keenly monitoring any indications of political instability and polarization in America following the election, and they will be seeking to take advantage of any winner in the presidential contest. The biggest disagreements concern Taiwan. In an effort to counter China's rise, both candidates are promising to be tough on Beijing and to implement comparable economic measures, such as boosting taxes on low-cost Chinese imports. However, they address the issue of China's regional influence in somewhat different ways. In the hopes of sending a clear message to an increasingly aggressive Beijing, Biden has fortified ties there. However, Trump prioritized getting the best deal over being a statesman while serving as president. In the event Seoul did not give Washington more money, he threatened to withdraw US troops from South Korea. Taiwan is where there is the most contrast between the two. Biden has repeatedly reaffirmed his commitment to defend the independent island in the event that President Xi follows through on his plan to unite Taiwan with the mainland, even if it means using force. However, Trump has opposed a US measure that sent help to Taiwan and accused it of hurting American enterprises. That made some wonder if he would be prepared to help Taipei in an emergency. China is unlikely to have a favorite in the contest when the US casts its ballot. Beijing believes that an unpredictable Trump might both start a new trade war and weaken and divide US partners in the area. They also won't be too thrilled with Biden serving another 4 years. They think his forging of alliances could lead to the start of a new Cold War. Ukrainians are not participating in this crucial election. Perhaps no other foreign nation is more interested in the US election than Ukraine. Everyone is aware that US financial and military assistance has been essential to keeping Ukraine's war effort going. Few think that Europe could fill any void fast or effortlessly. However, contrary to expectations, most people in Kiev are not as interested in the specifics of the campaign as one might think. That's because November seems so far away, as someone once told me. As Russian glide bombs pound cities and Ukrainian soldiers fight to stop Russian advances, there are more urgent worries. They are well aware of the remarks made throughout the campaign on Ukraine. Regarding Donald Trump, the analysts present are aware that he has expressed interest in ending a conflict and in reducing aid, while others worry that he would pressure Ukraine into an agreement it does not like. Analysts warn that actions taken while in office will be more important than statements made during a campaign or debate. It is also understood that, considering how long it took for Congress to approve the last assistance package, challenges will still arise even if Joe Biden wins. Therefore, even though Ukraine is merely a spectator at this point and has long since learned to deal with uncertainty, the stakes are great. Increased unpredictability for the UK policymakers tell me they are a little nervous about the US election. On the one hand, there is anxiety over possible choices that would have an impact on the UK. Would President Trump cozy up to Vladimir Putin and lessen US military assistance for Ukraine if he were to return to the White House? Would he choose to wage war on the NATO military alliance with Europe once more? Would he provoke China into a trade war? Would US protectionism and isolationism rise during a second term of President Biden? Would he still be physically capable of performing the job in 4 years? There's a more general concern on another level. In the UK, there is concern that a close outcome on November 5th, which many American voters do not consider as genuine, could spark political unrest greater than the Capitol storming in January 2021. A democratic crisis in the US might undermine US leadership internationally and give rise to autocrats elsewhere. As they get ready for their own election on July 4th, UK lawmakers from both major parties are concerned about all of this. Would they eventually have to decide between remaining close to a long-standing ally and standing up for democratic values? Would there be a major situation where they would have to decide between the US and Europe? Above all, in a world where uncertainty is growing, the US election adds to the uncertainties facing the UK. More Israeli Jews prefer Trump to Biden. Given that there may be significant ramifications from the White House contest, both candidates are being keenly monitored. Following the horrific events on October 7th, President Biden firmly supported Israel and has continued to arm the nation, despite growing criticism of the conflict and the large number of Palestinian civilians being killed. Overall, studies indicate that a greater proportion of Jewish Israelis believe Trump would be more beneficial to Israel than Biden. The majority disagree with Biden's approach to the conflict. Furthermore, a lot of Palestinians believe he is ignoring their pain. Israelis remember with gratitude that Trump signed new agreements to establish diplomatic relations between their nation and Arab states and officially recognized Jerusalem as their capital. He has called on Israel to get it over with, saying that its reputation is being tarnished, even if he supports the war in Gaza. Although Palestinians are not optimistic about a second Biden term, Trump might make things worse for them. Should he be elected, the former president has vowed to stop providing any US help to the Palestinians. Longer term, President Biden remains committed to the two-state solution, the internationally recognized recipe for peace, even though he hasn't offered a specific strategy for getting there. The feasibility of an independent Palestinian state has been questioned by Trump. According to conventional thinking, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, would prefer that Trump take the presidency again. He is reportedly resentful of the former president, meanwhile, for recognizing Biden's victory in 2020. India, not much else will change besides tone. The White House believes that India is in a favorable position. India is viewed by the US as a geopolitical counterbalance to China. India's economy is now ranked 5th globally, but it is expected to rise to the 3rd rank by 2030. The largest democratic elections in history were held in this nation earlier this month, and Narendra Modi was elected Prime Minister for a record 3 terms. India has been accused of democratic backsliding and of distorting the real economic situation at home. But considering India's strategic significance, none of that really matters to the United States. What occurs in November will not affect India's conduct in the international arena. Both contenders are well-known individuals. The status quo, a robust economic partnership and the red carpet treatment, remains in place if Biden is elected president. Modi made an official state visit to Washington just a year ago, which included a sumptuous banquet at the White House in honor of the prime leader, who also spoke to a joint session of Congress. The only thing that might change if Trump is re-elected is tone. He has already referred to Modi as a remarkable leader. In 2020, Trump travelled to India, where tens of thousands of people flocked to see their prime minister alongside the US president in Gujarat, the home state of Prime Minister Modi, evidence that India can handle any political situation. In Mexico, Trump's aggressive remarks continue to irritate. During the most recent presidential election, Mexicans made history by choosing Claudia Sheinbaum to be the nation's first female leader. During his tenure in the White House, her close buddy, outgoing President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, formed an unusual alliance with Donald Trump. Even though there have been moments when Mexico and Mr. Biden's relationship has been difficult, the neighbors have regularly found common ground in important issues like immigration and cross-border trade. When Sheinbaum takes office, she will have to demonstrate that she is not merely a continuation of the outgoing government, and how better to accomplish so than by fostering ties with Washington. As such, when it comes to collaborating with Biden or a future second Trump presidency, she might attempt to adopt a different tone and strategy from her predecessor, if not in content. While on the campaign trail, Claudia Sheinbaum spoke with the BBC and expressed her indifference to the idea of any man being president. "I'll stand up for Mexicans," she declared. However, Mexicans themselves have negative memories of Trump's leadership. Many people around here still find it offensive that he referred to Mexican immigrants as drug dealers, criminals, and rapists when he ascended the notorious gilded escalator to launch his campaign in 2016. Trade worth billions of dollars is at stake for Canada. The northern neighbor of the United States is concerned about a second Trump administration. In Canada, Trump's popularity has never surpassed that of some US voters. A poll conducted earlier this year revealed that most people were concerned that Trump's 4 more years in office would not be good for American democracy. Despite the strain that Trump's presidency caused in the bilateral relationship, Canada managed to win several things, most notably a renegotiated North American trade agreement. Political and corporate elites in Canada are bracing for further trade disruption as the US election in November draws near. The economic ties between the two nations are strong. Last year, trade totaling over $6 billion, $2.6 billion, £2.1 billion crossed the border every day. As a result, there is reason for anxiety regarding both the scheduled formal review of the trade agreement and Trump's remarks during the campaign regarding a global tariff on imported goods. With the launch of Team Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has sent envoys, corporate executives, and lawmakers swarming the US to promote Canada's advantages in both public and private domains. During the first Trump administration, a similar program was successful. According to Trudeau, the nation will be ready to deal with whatever gets tossed at us.